unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hello and welcome. Happy hump day. That's right, it's Wednesday night into Thursday morning. And The Last Show is going to be your first stop for intimate nonsense, intelligent idiocy, and whatever the heck else we're doing here. On tonight's program, Dinner on Mars. What technology will actually feed those on the red planet? It's something that gets often overlooked when we talk about the race into space to Mars. How are people going to eat? How will food grow? How will people survive? That is what we'll cover in about 10 minutes' time. Then, some of the most interesting stories from the tech sector, like contact lenses that let you see into the dark. And why is one state banning social media for everybody under 18 years old? And is it a good idea? That is merely some of tonight's show. We got lots of other stuff coming up that I'll tell you about throughout the night. Let's dive in.
Want to be part of The Last Show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644.
And in ducks attacking people in Florida news, this week, a duck attacked people in Florida. In Cape Coral, a feral Muscovy duck has been ambushing elderly residents, attempting break-ins, and allegedly waiting outside porches for the elderly like a poultry hitman. With wings of fury and a grudge against retirement, this duck has locals bleeding, reporters fleeing, and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission politely suggesting that locals handle it themselves. I am joined by Florida fowl correspondent Tony Five in London, England, who's reporting live at the scene in his apartment. Tony, welcome to the show.
David, where other reporters fear to tread, my friend, not me, not Tony Five. I'm going in there, right? I'm stirring up the feathers, my friend. I'm stirring up the feathers. This has been the second consecutive week where there's been a bird attack, and I've been on the scene from my bedroom. So, David, I'll be honest with you.
Wait, what are people saying on the ground in your apartment?
Not a lot, David. They're terrified of this duck. This duck is literally terrorizing this small town in Cape Coral in Florida. I mean, it's damaged people. I have met a guy, so I'm just going to do the audio because it sounds exactly like him. Is that okay?
I mean, this is live audio that was taped by another news outlet on the scene by Tony, in the sense that it was not taped by Tony, but it's someone who's dealt with this terrifying duck.
Yeah, he's a resident of Cape Coral. His name's James. He's been there for nearly 3 decades. This is his home. This is his place of refuge, David. A man and his castle, David. He's there, okay?
Okay, here's what he said to Tony. He said to another media outlet, and then Tony is about to read it.
I sit on my porch all day, 7 to 7:30 a.m. at this time of year to catch the sunset. You know, some sun. And I had my eyes closed, David. And all of a sudden, I felt a jab in my hand, baby, and it was bleeding. And that was his interview.
Was this man Mr. T that you interviewed?
I don't know, David. I can only tell you that the North American accent sounds like that to me.
Tony, I actually have a recording of this guy talking, and you sound nothing like him. Here's what he told reporters.
I sit on my porch around 7 to 7:30 at this time of the year to catch a sunset, some sun. And I had my eyes closed. All of a sudden, I felt a jab on my hand, and it was bleeding.
What was it doing? It was bleeding.
I mean, you actually didn't sound that unlike him.
Thank you very much. David, you forget that my talents extend to basically finding bird attacks on people. I can mimic voices. I can do everything.
Now, ducks terrorizing the elderly in a small Florida town. What can a duck do? Last week we reported on a hawk that was attacking people. They have claws. I assume they have talons. They've got a beak that's sharp.
Yep.
Have you ever been bit by a duck? Because I have. It's a very gentle bite. Plus, they have webbed feet. They don't have talons.
Do ducks fly, David? I can't remember. Maybe they fly a little bit. I've only ever really eaten a duck.
Yeah, I think they kind of, they fly, but they like to hang out in the water and waddle the little duck butts.
Yeah, mainly more than anything. This is a black duck, so it's going incognito. So that's one thing. I didn't want to become a race issue, David, as you know, but it is a black duck, the Muscovy duck, a very famous black duck over there in Florida. And it's just aggressive. Now, by aggressive, I think it loiters in front of people's houses and just stares at them. Now, to be honest with you, David, if you open the door and saw a black duck staring at you, that is a little bit frightening, right?
I don't know, Tony.
I mean, do you remember when I used to do that to you?
I'm not taking the bait. I'm not taking this setup that you're cornering me for.
Do you remember when I used to do it to you? How did that feel? So imagine me as a duck, or a duck-sized version of me standing outside your door. That would be terrorizing, right?
No, you're a very friendly chap. You're not too tall. You got that soft, bald head. I would let you in.
Really? But, I mean, I think the duck is just going after him. It's like those films, like those really bad horror films where somebody's chasing them through the forest. It feels like that. And if it's a duck, it doesn't matter whether it's a duck, a dog, or like, a really scary monster. I think the fact of the unknown, that duck could do anything, David. What has provoked that duck? What's in that duck's history? What has that duck seen that we don't know?
And is it Florida's new apex predator? Like alligators, panthers, what are those black cats that everyone's so scared of?
O.J. Simpson. He's a black cat, isn't he?
I hate you so much.
He's a cool guy.
You're going to get me in trouble. I feel like people listening don't know that you're black, and it just sounds like we're being racist, and you're going to get us in trouble.
Well, you can say I'm black all you want, David. I'm chocolate skinned, maybe.
What was I saying? Not a panther. The black cat in Florida. What is it called?
Black cat? Black panther? Jaguar?
It's a black panther. It's just a black panther, isn't it?
Black panther, right? It's just a black panther.
Anyway, is this duck Florida's new apex predator?
It could be, though, because that's how things happen, People, the predators fall apart, and maybe the duck has risen to the top of the food chain, and he's thinking, well, the only thing now for me is to attack these elderly people. If you imagine, he's only attacking the elderly. How do these birds know the age of these residents?
I think the birds are going for the easy ones. They're picking off the slow ones, training their skills, and then they're going to go for the more able-bodied individuals. You can't actually shoot this bird, though. Because it's protected.
Correct.
If you have a net, you're like, the Florida Wildlife Commission is saying you can deal with it, but you're not allowed to kill it. This seems like a catch-22 for residents.
Well, I don't know if there's 22 of them, but I guess there's definitely one of them at least.
Oh my God, what a night this is going to be.
I'm looking forward to it, be honest with you.
Well, what do you think's going to happen?
I think this duck will get further. It'll get more involved. I think there'll be more multiple attacks on individuals until there'll probably be an APB out on the duck. He might have to go underground, David. He may have to change his name. He may have to go into some sort of witness protection at some stage. Who knows? The sky's the limit for this duck.
Well, Tony, if the duck's coming at you and he's attacking you and he's about to kill you, I can tell you one piece of advice.
Go on, David. What should I do? Should I jump up?
No. If a duck's coming at you, Tony, you know what you do? You duck.
Duck. Yeah. I mean, that's what you get paid the big bucks for.
You should duck.
Thank you, David. Wonderful, wonderful preventative measures that you offer to me.
Well, Tony, of all the reporting that was ever done by a Florida foul correspondent. Also, did you see what I did there when I introduced you? Florida foul. Because the duck is foul. It's not a nice duck, but it's also foul because it is a duck.
Is it a duck? Isn't fowl related to chickens?
No. That's any bird, Tony.
So what? Like a hawk is a fowl?
I think so. Isn't fowl any bird?
No, it's not. Got ya. Caught ya on the bird facts, my friend.
Now I'm second guessing myself. I thought fowl meant any bird.
I don't think so. You wouldn't say a bald eagle is a fowl, would you? But you would say duck, chicken. What's the other thing? Hen? Man, we really need to research birds. I really need to know more about birds. I mean, if I'm going to be really specific and an expert on bird-related attacks on the elderly, I really need to know the birds and the elderly.
All right, well, we'll have you studied up next time you join us. Everyone is a little bit stupider for having listened to this, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Tony 5, our foreign correspondent, is from London, England. Tony, thank you for being on the show.
David, I'm going back to the scene quite now, and I'll be ready next week for more bird-related injury news.
After the break, how will humanity grow food and feed itself on Mars? The big question we will answer in a few moments. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show. Probably.
The Last Show with David Cooper. Procrastinate your life away with us.
What will humans eat on Mars? And what does it tell us about food here on Earth? Well, today's guest helped write a book, Dinner on Mars, a wild and fascinating look at how space farming could transform the way we grow, eat, and survive in the future, not only on the red planet, but also here back on Earth. Her name is Dr. Lenore Newman. She's the director of the Food and Agriculture Institute at the University of the Fraser Valley. Lenore, thanks for joining me today.
Great to be here.
Why Mars? Why Mars such a powerful lens from reimagining how we might farm here on Earth?
Well, it turns out it's a really interesting challenge. And to date, when we go to space, we hand wave it away. We take takeout from Earth. So if we go to the moon, we just pack an extra big sack lunch and head up there. If we go up to the space station, we just take snacks. But if we go to Mars, that's years. And if we set up a colony there or a settlement, that's forever. Where does the food come from? And it's a problem that is really hard to solve. And it became a bit of a passion because every time we watched a space movie, the food would just be waved away. Usually there'd be like one or two plants in a corner, and that's the kitchen. And I'm like, that's not going to cut it. These guys are going to starve.
And we got to bring up like a sustainable little biodome with Earth soil. I mean, that's my dumb idea. I'm sure there's a smarter one. But what will astronauts on Mars eat, and how will we make sure it's nutritious and not just dried, fast food, basically?
Exactly. And the problem is you can't take a little piece of Earth with you because it costs too much to get it into orbit and then take it to Mars. And so no soil brought from Earth, and also no animals brought from Earth because they hate space. They just hate it. And there's great video of cats in space. They're not happy. And it kind of transfers across food system. So what you have to do is build a food system from scratch using only what you have which is energy and lunar and Martian, in this case, regolith. And so that Martian soil, though, is poisonous. It's full of perchlorates and it would kill you. So if Matt Damon had really eaten potatoes right out of the dirt on Mars like he did in The Martian, he would die.
Wait, he wasn't really up there? That wasn't a documentary?
Wasn't a documentary. Can you believe it?
I can.
I mean, we should have known when he jumped from one space vehicle to the other. But the potatoes would be toxic. So what you do is you take something that doesn't care about space, which is cyanobacteria. So blue-green algae, you use the blue-green algae, which is poisonous, ironically, to humans, and it will happily eat the Martian soil and create soil that we can then use. So that's your basis. You start with the algae in the soil, you build soil that you can use, you do hydroponics for all your vegetables, you have some soil now, well, you can use that to grow some potatoes, but you can also feed the leftover cyanobacteria after it's done to yeast and bacteria to make protein. And then you're off to the races. Then you can have Martian cheese, Martian meat, but the base is genetically altered yeast that produces proteins and fats.
It seems like we're in a future here on Earth where lab-grown meat is just around the corner. I don't know when it'll be, if it'll be, but it seems likely. Is that something we would want on Mars?
It is true, and we would. And I've been around that corner, and I've actually tried some of those products. I've actually eaten salmon grown in a vat and meatballs made with pork that was created by bacteria and yeast. And it works. And right now, it's a little too expensive to find in your corner grocery store. But by the time we're on Mars, which realistically is going to be a little while, those technologies will be ready, and they will be used on Earth too. Although what I like to tell people, it's kind of like as an addition to the current food system. The problem we're faced on Earth is we can't produce enough protein for everyone. without literally farming the entire surface of the earth. So no more Amazon, no more, boreal forest. It would all be cows. So instead, cow in a bottle.
Well, how can looking at Mars and how we might grow food there have caused us to look back at Earth with a more critical lens and how we get food here?
Well, the first thing, this is a really hard problem. So we should really not screw up the Earth so badly that we have to go to Mars, because Earth is easy because it's all here. I mean, you get this huge dividend from having a functional, intact biosphere and ecosystem.
For now.
We literally, yeah, for now, but we literally can walk outside and there's free food all over the place. I don't know how we made it so complicated that we're wrecking that, but on Mars, you've got nothing. And it should make us feel a little more appreciative of what we have here.
You mentioned cheese, yeast. What sort of products could we get from bacteria on Mars? That seems a little odd to me. I was sort of just picturing plants and maybe lab-grown meat.
Yeah, well, bacteria are used to they're used like little mini labs, and that happens already. So example, if you're on insulin, that insulin comes from bacteria that's been engineered to produce insulin. Same with, we can actually get some dairy protein that way too. And so there's some non-animal dairy on the market in the US where the dairy came from yeast and bacteria that create the proteins, at least, and very soon the fat. And what it is yeast and bacteria they're little labs. And usually they produce alcohol, and nothing wrong with that. We're probably going to do that on Mars too, to be honest.
Yeah, what else is there going to be to do out there?
Yeah, we're going to be a little bored, so we'll definitely have some normal yeast, but we'll also have some yeast that's been, through genomics, a few genes have been tweaked to produce other things. And it works with bacteria and fungus as well.
Will we see like huge bases of farming? Like, what will the technology look like? Like, if I went to Mars, let's say, in however many years, what am I going to see? Is it going to be covered in farms? Is it just going to be little domes next to bases?
Well, we'll probably have little domes, maybe even caves, because we're trying to hide the food from the radiation. And Mars isn't very friendly for radiation because there's no electromagnetic field that, like we have on Earth, that's keeping us free from all that radiation from space. And so the one thing we never really could figure out.
Wait, the one challenge? Come on.
Well, okay, there's a few little challenges, but some of them aren't in our area. Grains, carbohydrates. If you want spaghetti on Mars, it's actually hard because grain farming on Earth works wonderfully. It's very advanced, very efficient, but what you need is a lot of land. What we don't have on Mars is a lot of land. So I am not entirely sure how we would grow wheat on Mars. So we might be eating a lot of potato bread. I don't know. It's about the best we could come up with.
Pasta's pretty much my favorite food. I'm not giving it up. I'm not going, okay? I'm not going.
See, you're not going. Probably, I like pasta too, so I'm with you.
Lenore, when do you think we'll see a sustainable, or at least the beginnings of a sustainable farmed community on Mars? Like 5 years, 50 years, 500 years?
Well, we have to survive first. So I think that's our big challenge is we've hit a bit of a technology bottleneck right now, where we have technologies that have serious impact on the planet, and we don't have the technology and the social wherewithal to handle that. So we are rapidly putting ourselves into a situation where we could collapse as a civilization. That is bad. If we can turn that around, start shrinking the amount of land we're using to support everyone on Earth, restore natural ecosystems, the technology is getting closer, but it's probably still 20 years out, 30 years out before it would make any sense to try. Now, I could be wrong. We could see a major power decide to do a bit of a sprint like they did with the moon. They went to the moon with analog technology just because they decided that was how they're going to spend 5 to 10% of GDP for a few years. We could do that with Mars. 10 years, maybe. I think 50 is maybe more realistic. So, don't pack your bag.
Well, if we can have spaghetti there, I might see you in 50 years. Lenore, thanks for talking to me today about this.
Lovely. Glad to do it.
Dr. Lenore Newman is the director of the Food and Agriculture Institute at the University of the Fraser Valley. Check out her book. She's one of the authors of Dinner on Mars. It's available wherever books are sold. And coming up soon, a contact lens that might soon let you see in the dark. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
The human algorithm, where emotional inputs create unexpected outputs. The Last Show with David Cooper.
It is time for technology time. That is, it's the time for the segment with Carmi Levy, technology expert. Carmi, I'm so excited about this first story that deals with contact lenses. Also, welcome.
Good to be with you, David. Definitely my best time of the week. Sorry, did not mean to be that.
No, it happens every week. We have a good time with it. When I was little, I thought the word infrared was infrared. You know, like when you see something in writing more than you hear said.
Oh yeah.
You know, like I thought it was an epitome or a hyperbole. You know,
Yeah.
I thought it was infrared.
Well, I blame the inventors of English. It's the most Byzantine language on planet Earth.
Well, I've infrared that the following story is, it's sort of like infer, but dumber. The following story is so cool. New contact lenses that are, I don't know, smart. They can help you do things that regular eyeballs can't do, simultaneously correcting your vision. What do these new ones do?
I mean, if you think of night vision goggles, think of helicopter pilots flying blind, and they wear these things. They're mounted on their helmets, and they're really big, and they've got cables coming out of them because they need external power. Really ponderous. It isn't something that you and I can use. It's a very specialized, expensive, fidgety and fiddly technology. So essentially what this does, and it comes to us from the University of Science and Technology of China, some researchers there came up with it. It essentially takes the technology of night vision goggles and it bakes them into contact lenses and allows you to see in the near infrared spectrum. And so basically what they did was they created layers of what they call nanoparticles, and they embed them on these contact lenses. You put them on your eye, and it allows you to see in the infrared spectrum, even if your eyes are closed. And they've tested these on humans as well as mice. Don't ask me how they got them on the mice. I don't think I want to know. But
Sounds mean to the mice at best.
I would love to see the video. But apparently they were able, humans reported that they were able to see when they were otherwise unable to see in the complete dark. They were able to see things, and the mice, they were able to detect brain wave activity in their kind of optical space of their brain. And so the research bears out that it provides that capability in a much more, let's call it, feasible package than traditional night vision goggles. The limitations are that the resolution isn't all that high because this is kind of like a version 1, which they're working on.
Yeah, but night vision and low resolution's a little better than night vision right now, which is no resolution.
Exactly. And the cool thing is you know how night vision goggles are usually kind of, everything is green. It's monochrome green. They say in this case, they figured out a way to color code different wavelengths of infrared light. So there's a little bit of color in there as well, which is kind of neat because it can help, it can help regular sighted people see in the dark. So think about search and rescue personnel, emergency responders, things like that, or individuals who have issues with their vision. It can give colored sight to someone who is otherwise colorblind. So kind of neat.
And Carmi, and I can finally know whether it was my cat or my girlfriend that engaged in flatulence, because when the smelly smoke comes out of your rear end, it gets picked up on infrared cameras because it's hot.
Oh, you know those videos are going to go so viral when this thing is commercialized right now.
Dude, I'm really scared. I'm the one who's like, I be doing it when I'm out, and I just do it silently, and everyone looks around, and they thought, who did this? I'm going to get busted. I don't like this future, Carmi. There's a lot of reasons not to like the future, but this is one of them.
Well, but the thing is, if you only get one pair and then you keep it to yourself and don't give it to your significant other, which I know in my house, that's what I would do. I just wouldn't tell my wife. That might be, one way to maintain that balance of power.
I'm going to get busted. I'm going to be a social pariah. Oh my God.
I will be happy to share and comment on the video that your significant other puts up.
I usually admit it when I'm out with friends and it's me, and I have a lot of credibility. Like I was at a wedding last weekend and we were standing around at the bar and someone let one go and everyone at the wedding was like, David, because, I stink and I have IBS.
It's usually you.
But I'm like, it wasn't me. And last night I did it and I took credit for it. So I already admit it. It's a major trail off, but there's cool stuff you can see in infrared that you can't see in non-infrared.
Yeah.
Not just like stuff, but like heat.
Exactly. And so, you can see things that I can see my dog walking through the house at night for security purposes, right? You can see things, you can see intruders without the intruders seeing you or even knowing that you're there. So it has all sorts of really cool applications in different areas, which I think is really neat. We can't buy this just yet. It's still a research project and there isn't really a roadmap for making this commercially available. But this is one of those cool things that I would love to keep my eyes on. No pun intended. I did not mean to step into that, but because this is really neat. This is game-changing technology, and you can almost imagine or start to imagine the different use cases that this could be applied to. I would love to see this reach commercial availability at some point because I would be first in line.
Speaking of game-changing technology, for those who have never been to San Francisco or a city that allows robo-taxis, the first time you're on the road or on the sidewalk and see these things drive by, it's like you think to yourself, what is happening?
I'm living a dystopian Hollywood future and it's playing out right in front of my eyes.
So walk me through this company, Zoox.
Yeah, so Zoox is the autonomous robo-taxi company that is owned by Amazon. It's kind of like Waymo, which is owned by Google. And they've been testing their autonomous vehicles in San Francisco. So far, it's employees only, so you and I can't use them. But the plan at some point is to make them available to the public. Much to Zoox's chagrin, there was an accident involving one of their vehicles. Is that it was at an intersection and it was hit by someone on an electric scooter. It was waiting for another vehicle to pass by. It had already braked. It was stopped and waiting for the other motorist to pass by when a scooter hit it. And that individual required medical attention. So of course, anytime there's any kind of incident involving an autonomous vehicle, it will generate headlines. And because of that, Zoox has recalled the vehicles, it's pulled them from the roads, and it is rolling out a software update so that its vehicles are better able to track what's going on around them and stop themselves when anyone else around them, whether it's another car, a pedestrian, a motorcyclist, a cyclist, whatever, if they're in what they call a vulnerable position, it will be even more hesitant to move.
It's funny when you get one too many on the road and they create too much of a traffic jam and the whole system kind of cascades into just a bunch of autonomous vehicles stopped with their four-way flashers on, with their hazard lights on, like unable to solve the problem. There's a few videos on YouTube of that happening in San Francisco in parking lots and whatnot when there's like a conference in town and there's a lot of people summoning them. Mm-hmm. Side note, you really are summoning something, it feels like.
Exactly. And I think this is a good thing, right? We're learning what works, we're learning what doesn't, and I think the thing is that no one died here. It wasn't the fault of the technology. In fact, it was the fault of the scooter driver who smacked into the autonomous vehicle. But of course, when these things are reported, it doesn't matter who is at fault; they're going to be reported anyway, and the white hot light of criticism is going to be shining on the technology. The cold reality of autonomous vehicles is they don't get distracted. They don't read their smartphones. They don't suffer, major medical incidents. They don't road rage. And there are a whole lot of reasons why they should be, when they're fully developed, safer than humans behind the wheel. But we're still at the early stage yet, and they're still figuring it out.
I mean, I'll yes and you in this ideal future where we have this product, but for now,
Utopia.
I'm drinking the haterade. I hate being on the road with them. They're way too slow. They cause traffic jams, and they look stupid, and the people in them look stupid too. That's my final verdict for now, having been to a place like San Francisco I visited and not liking sharing the road with them. Haterade for now. Love what's coming in the future. That's where I'm at.
I'm with you, and I will just walk.
Carmi Levy is here. When we come back, we'll talk a state that is banning social media for anyone under 18. Yes, that's what we'll talk about. I feel like there was more to what I was going to say, but there isn't. This is The Last Show. I'm David Cooper.
We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The Last Show with David Cooper.
It is time for Technology Time. We are joined by Carmi Levy, having a look at young people's use of social media and cell phones. Carmi, welcome back to the show.
Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
I think the more and more literature that comes out and psychologists doing the research, anyone really doing the research, the verdict is limiting the amount of young people's use of cell phones and social media is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Some jurisdictions are taking matters into their own hands. And let's start there. The fair state of Texas, readying to ban social media for anyone under the age of 18. A part of me thinks you're too controlling. It's the state taking, monitoring its people, controlling what decisions I make with my phone and my kids. The other, I think, this is really going to protect kids.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, the sad reality is that nothing else has worked. We've seen report after report that reinforces just how damaging social media is to everyone, let alone especially kids and their developing brains. And so, the fact that Texas is deciding to draw a line and ban the technology for anyone under 18, which is the most significant law of its type that we've seen so far. When Australia implemented its nationwide ban, that was under 16. And Florida, which also, as of this year, has banned social media for kids, their cutoff age is 14. So Texas has really decided to draw probably the thickest, harshest line there is. And obviously, anytime you use the word ban, that's going to get everyone's attention. Never mind that kids are smart and they'll figure out ways around it. Never mind that really teaching kids to be solid digital citizens isn't the government's responsibility. It's mom and dad and caregivers' responsibilities, and that it's the family that's got to figure it out. But hey, if this is what gets people talking about it, even if it's a flawed solution, then you know what? Maybe it's not a bad thing. We're talking about it. And if there wasn't a ban in Texas, we probably wouldn't be. So years after we started seeing the data that is harming our kids, we're finally starting to see people do something about it. Even if it's not the right thing, it's something, which is better than nothing.
Tech CEOs in the U.S. have been cozying up to the federal administration that are friendly with Texas's administration. They're the same party, a lot of these same characters. I'm surprised they couldn't at the last minute, someone like Mark Zuckerberg, prevent this. But I think it just goes to show the damaging impact of social media on kids unregulated.
Yeah, I mean, and I think also the tech industry's attempts to cozy up to the current administration, the fact that Donald Trump put Apple on blast recently, saying that he will apply a 25% tariff to any iPhone that isn't produced in the U.S., shows that even after all of big tech's efforts to become friendly with the new administration, that's no guarantee that they're going to get legislation that is friendly to them. So I think that's the thing here, is that politically it's good for getting the attention of voters. A lot of people recognize, and if you're a voter, you recognize, and if you're a parent, you recognize this isn't good for my kid. And even though I don't think anyone believes that you simply hand over responsibility to the government, whether it's at a state level or a national level, and that'll magically help your kid. But at the same time, having something there, I think, reinforces that this needs to be a priority both for the government as well as for society and families within that society. So I think it's a positive, but I think it's not the only thing that we can do. In other words, we shouldn't stop. If you live in Texas, it shouldn't stop there. There should still be resources devoted to helping kids, fend off the worst effects of social media. There should be better programming, better training for caregivers and parents and teachers and members of the community. And I don't see any mention of that in this particular bill. And frankly, there needs to be.
Where there's social media, there's smartphones. Where there's kids using social media, there's kids using smartphones. Let's zoom away from Texas and zoom into Europe, where a British survey found that half of young adults are long for the age pre-internet, don't want to be on their phones. There's, this is actually not that surprising to me, but sometimes when Gen Z is like, oh, I wish, I'm jealous of you. You didn't grow up with the internet, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I don't know, man. You say that, but do you really want to be unplugged? Like, I had to go to the library to look something up when I was a kid,
Yeah, and what did we do when we waited for the bus, right? We didn't have a phone to kill time.
Or what did I do when I went to the bathroom? I had to bring a novel or I'd be bored.
That's right. Remember magazines, kids? Oh, that's right. Those paper things. This data comes to us from the British Standards Institution. And yeah, I mean, you touched on it in your intro. It states 46% say they would prefer to have grown up in a world without the internet. Almost 70% of them say that they feel worse when they spend time on social media, and half of them would be in favor of a digital curfew, so that it would cut off social media and other resources after a certain time of night, maybe 10 o'clock. So, the fact is, and I think this is heartening, it shows that this generation recognizes the harm of the technology and is starting to take action. That many of them wish that platforms like TikTok or X or even Instagram had never been invented in the first place. And I think this is good because awareness is really the first step toward doing something about it. I think my perception, it was largely the same as everyone else's, was that up until now, we kind of thought that kids were just using the technology blindly, not recognizing the harm it was causing, and not really questioning it. Whereas I think this data suggests otherwise. And I see that as an absolute positive. What comes next, who knows? But at least now there's recognition, and that's a really critical first step.
All right, our last story is straight into the gutter, where my favorite place is to be. We go to the company OnlyFans, who I've heard whispers, I've heard rumors that it is talking to sell off itself for like an exorbitant fee. I had no idea this website had perceived worth to the level that we're talking here. I mean, it really is just a sort of marketplace for quote unquote independent adult entertainers to connect with their audience, to charge their audience what they want, to create the content they want on their own terms and sell it. And then OnlyFans takes a cut. I had no idea that it was potentially worth as much as they're talking.
I mean, it's amazing for a platform that's been around since 2016. It is 9 years old, but of course it took off during the pandemic when everyone was trying to connect. Never really advertised itself as a porn or a smut platform, but that's kind of what it evolved into, because as we know, look into any comment, forum online, and it won't take long for it to descend into this kind of thing. And so that's what OnlyFans has become. It's evolved into that. And now Reuters is reporting that their parent company, Phoenix International, they're negotiating to sell OnlyFans, and the dollar figure is $8 billion. There's a bunch of American investors who've expressed interest in it. And I think it illustrates just how valuable this is. Yeah, we may look down our noses morally at what goes on this platform, but there's a marketplace for it. It is not illegal, at least in its current form. So investors are seeing an opportunity, even if they probably may want to shower afterward.
It's kind of a weird business model. It's real like gig economy vibes. Like you start your own little business. If you're an Uber driver, you start on your own terms. You drive your car when you want. It's your car. You're an independent contractor. And that's kind of the model. And this was unheard of in pornography until these websites came around, OnlyFans being the biggest one. I definitely don't know the names of any others. Why would I know that? But it's the biggest player in that space. And it's funny because all the independent creators, well, quote unquote independent, there's some dark stuff on there and whatnot, but ostensibly independent creators, they're the ones that bring worth to the marketplace, not unlike Airbnb hosts bring the worth to Airbnb. And yet this company is worth so much money. Who'd have thought a marketplace for adult entertainment worth that much?
I will give OnlyFans credit because the brand really has established itself in a very short amount of time. They have really allowed content to lead, and they've allowed their community to craft that content and build those relationships at a community level. We can talk about what that content is until the end of time, but if someone wants to pay or some investors want to pay $8 billion for it, I say go for it.
Carmi, thank you so much.
Thanks, David.
You can find Carmi's OnlyFans at onlyfans.com/Carmi Levy. I kid, of course.
Don't tell my wife.
Carmi Levy is a tech expert. Coming up after the break, we'll learn how to assassinate me. That is, if you wanted to, and that's all based on declassified CIA materials from the 1950s. The truth is weirder than the fictional conspiracy theories. Find out more in a few moments. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
The only talk show with an introduction that mentions its own introduction. And that's happening right now in this introduction. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Begging for a mention. Yeah, you just want attention.
It is Conspiracy Corner. We are joined by Nathan Radke, a professor of conspiracy studies at Humber Polytechnic who co-hosts the Uncover Up podcast. And my producer Danny alleges he is not an alien. Today we will discuss how to remove the leader of a Central American country. How to get rid of me if I were a leader of a Central American country. Something that sounds kind of awful, but that the CIA has dabbled in over the years. Nathan, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me on, El Presidente David Cooper.
Ooh, I like it already. Well, I like it before you tried to assassinate me.
Enjoy it while you can. You're not going to last.
As much as we can criticize and make claims, there's not really too much doubt about what the CIA was doing in the 1950s because a lot of that stuff has been declassified. Some of the methods of assassination and getting rid of leaders, reasonable, some extremely absurd, needlessly complicated. And Nathan, that's what we're going to go through.
Yeah. I mean, this was a situation that the United States came up across quite a bit in the 1950s and 60s. They would bump against some often democratically elected leader that, wasn't good for the American government or wasn't good for corporations or whatever. We saw it in Iran. We saw it in Guatemala. Obviously, we saw it in Cuba. And fortunately, there was this brand new organization that they had that was built for just this sort of thing. And actually, when the CIA was created in 1947, President Truman was a little bit worried that there was the possibility that maybe they might get out of hand if there wasn't enough oversight. He didn't want them pulling off covert ops. He just wanted them to gather intelligence. But then once Eisenhower gets in, Cold War's really fired up. Eisenhower says, you know what? Let's take off the safeguards. Let's see what this organization can get up to and down to.
It's like you have to respond to foreign threats that are doing shady things by doing shady things yourself. Like the CIA sees the KGB and the Soviets and other nations kind of doing shady things, and they think, we got to do it to compete. It's kind of like an earnest beginning, but then weird things start happening.
Yeah, you got to fight shade with shade.
Well, do you?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. In 1954, the CIA puts out this internal document titled A Study in Assassination. And thanks to the Freedom of Information Act, we can all go and read this thing. And it's an amazing thing to read. It's a disturbing thing to read. And I think it's also kind of an important thing to read. And I thought that maybe we should go through this so you could see what's going to eventually happen to you when we take you out of office.
Oh, we're back on that again. Great. All right, yeah, let's go through it. It's like the classic declassified document. I'm just looking at it. The text is impossible to read. There's weird notes on it. Let's jump in.
So it opens up by saying, hey, you know what? murder is just not morally justifiable. So that's a good, strong start, coming out and saying, hey, you can't kill people. And then immediately they say, well, actually, no, there's a bunch of ways in which it's fine. Maybe you could argue self-defense. Maybe there's people who are, bad enough that they require some killing. Or maybe you've got a political leader and they've got this new burgeoning career and it's a bit of a danger to the cause of freedom. And of course, freedom is vague enough that you can pretty much make it mean whatever you want it to mean.
Yeah, I think that's the common enemy of the American people, those who hate freedom. What does that even mean? I like not being free. That's my favorite thing. Who would say that? Even the people that are trying to ruin your freedom.
Yeah, and so that's the classic thing about a line like that. All you have to do is say, hey, this guy's against freedom. And then all of a sudden, that murder that you initially said was not morally justifiable, guess what? You just justified it in a couple seconds.
Great.
So as far as the assassins go, there's two different kinds, according to this document. There's the kind that escapes and the kind that gets killed, and those are your only two options. Quote, no compromises should exist here. The assassin must not fall alive into enemy hands, end quote. So either they've got to be good enough that they get out, or they're crazy enough that they get killed, and either way, you're in the clear.
Is that like the origin of these cyanide pills we see in the spy movies? Like if you're going to go out there and try to assassinate someone and get caught, you better take a cyanide pill?
Yeah, you best not get caught. But ideally, rather than relying on them to take the cyanide pill, what you really want is to just have the assassin get killed by the people that they protecting the person that they just had assassinated. And the best way to do this is to make sure that, quote, the assassin must be a fanatic of some sort. Politics, religion, and revenge are about the only feasible motives, end quote. And obviously, if you got your fanatic assassin, don't give him any sensitive information. Just kind of let him get all worked up and then throw them at the target and hope for the best.
All right, great. I'm with you.
Now, as far as the actual way that you're going to get knocked off El Presidente, there's a bunch of different styles. There's the kind where the assassin gets up close and kills you using a weapon or a tool of some sort. But as it says in the document, it's hard for even a trained judo master to kill somebody with their bare hands. So what you really need is some sort of like a club or something, like a hammer or a fireplace poker or a wrench or a lampstand. And in some ways, these are actually better than weapons, because if your assassin gets caught beforehand with a weapon, their cover's blown. But if they get caught with a lampstand, like that's just the most natural and innocent thing imaginable.
That's a violent and gory death, though. I'm not really looking forward to being bludgeoned by a lampstand.
Okay, well, you know what? Since you're a good guy, maybe we'll switch it up and we'll do something else. Why don't we make it look like an accident? Now, let me ask you a question. What do you think is the minimum height you should throw a guy off of in stories to guarantee that he dies?
Please don't tell me that they studied this and put it in a manual.
I cannot tell you that because it's totally in the manual.
I'm going to go ahead and my gut is saying 3, but just to be sure, 4 stories.
4 stories? I mean, that's not enough. What if they land in a haystack? What if like a truck full of mattresses drives by? The official CIA document says that it's got to be 75 feet, which is about 7 stories.
Oh my God. That seems high, but I guess I'm thinking 4 stories. Maybe I'm just breaking both my legs.
Yeah, no, exactly. And then the whole thing has failed completely. Now, also, you shouldn't throw people off of bridges into water because that isn't reliable enough. I just have a random innocent question. Can you swim?
I mean, yes, but fully clothed in like some really decent chop in the middle of a running river? Maybe not.
Okay. I mean, if it's known that the victim can't swim, then you can use the ocean or a fast-moving river. And as it says in the document, it's a good idea in these situations for the assassin to appear to attempt a rescue. So what I would do is I'd throw you into the ocean, and then I would say, I'll go save him. And I'd go in. 2 reasons. 1, then I can make sure you drown. And 2, then I've got myself an alibi.
Ooh, I like it. I tried.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, I was out there. I was flopping around. I did the best I could.
I would be so happy to see you, Nathan. As I was drowning, I accidentally tripped, I thought, and fell into the river, but then you sort of pushed my head under. Is that what's going to happen?
I mean, that's not what it's going to look like is happening from shore, but you and I will know that's what's happening.
I thought we were friends.
Well, you know, we are friends, and so maybe something else. Car accidents, according to the file, they're too hard to arrange and execute to be considered that reliable. The only really reliable way is to drug the target beforehand then put them behind the wheel, then push the car off a cliff or into the ocean.
Great.
Do you have a car?
No, since I moved to Manhattan, but I did before I moved here.
Right, but you don't have one now. That's not going to work. It's going to look suspicious. But fortunately, this file gives us so many other options. Arson. Arson's good if the building is suitably combustible. And again, probably drug the target first so they can't escape. Are you a known drinker?
I've been sober for years.
Oh, boy, this is getting really difficult. Because, of course, if you were a known drinker, as it says, alcohol is very useful for this purpose. I guess it's not going to work.
I like a mocktail or a non-alcoholic beer.
Right. So none of these seem like they're going to work so far. So I think what we should do is we should look at some specific plans that they had to kill Castro and see if any of those are going to work on you.
All right, when we come back, we'll look at some of the CIA's bizarre, weird, strange attempts to kill the former leader of Cuba, Fidel Castro. It's Conspiracy Corner. Nathan Radke is here. We'll be back.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Taste the forbidden fruit of knowledge. The last show with David Cooper.
It is Conspiracy Corner. We are talking the strange and weird ways that the CIA studied and put into a manual on how to assassinate a foreign leader. Did I already say Nathan Radke is here? My brain
I'm
is
still here.
He's here.
It's still true.
He's here. Nathan Radke, professor of conspiracy studies at Humber Polytechnic and co-host of the Uncover Up podcast. Whew. Nathan, you are trying your best to kill me if I was a Central American leader in the 1950s. Let's talk about the strange and bizarre ways that the CIA attempted to get rid of Castro.
Yeah, so after the Cuban Revolution, Castro cozies up to the Soviet Union and the CIA decides this guy's got to go. They launch Operation Mongoose. And they came up with a bunch of wildly complicated, borderlining cartoonish methods of dispatching him, or at the very least making him unfit to lead. So let's go through some of these and see if any of them would work on El Presidente David Cooper. So I'll start with an obvious one. Do you smoke cigars?
No, but I used to smoke cigarettes and I do chew nicotine gum.
Okay, well, I mean, this isn't going to work with cigarettes. We really need the bulk that's provided by a cigar, because the CIA was considering two methods of using Castro's cigars to kill him. One, rig it with explosives.
How do you get him in that little tiny case?
Well, I mean, just a little bit of explosives, if it goes off in your face, would probably do it. I mean, you've seen Looney Tunes cartoons.
I have seen Looney Tune cartoons.
So basically, it would be that. But with cigarettes, you're not getting enough explosive in. With a big, fat cohiba, like Castro liked to smoke, you could get a little bit of C4 in that. The other option, of course, was coat it with botulinum toxin.
Oh, botulism.
Yeah, exactly. Now, ultimately, neither of these were attempted. And because you don't smoke cigars, not going to work on you. So another question, do you like to swim?
We already talked about this. Not in the ocean. I've seen what swims in there, but in the occasional pool, sure.
Yeah, because we got two swimming-related assassination plans. One, Castro loved seashells. So maybe that could be his weakness. You could take a really beautiful seashell. It was so appealing that no man could resist it. And in fact, the CIA bought a bunch of Cuban mollusks in order to try to find one that was large enough and pretty enough that you could cram a bunch of explosives into it. And then you'd put that explosive clam somewhere in the ocean that Castro was known to dive. He would go swimming around. He would see it. He would think, my God, that's the prettiest shell I've ever seen. He brings it to the surface and kaboom.
The man was hypnotized, mesmerized, amazed by a seashell, so much so that we could kill him using it. It seems like the CIA is reaching.
They are reaching. But there was another one that was perhaps a little bit more reasonable. Give him as a present a diving suit that would be coated in foot fungus, which would give him a debilitating skin disease, and couple that with a breathing apparatus for the scuba gear that was filled with tuberculosis.
Tuberculosis and foot fungus. I don't know why that's funny. It's awful.
Well, I mean, it didn't work, so I guess it's funny.
Yeah, I do a lot of fungus-related content on this show, and I hate it because it's assassination, but it might be my favorite one yet.
It's not bad, but again, you're not a scuba diver. These aren't going to work. You might be lactose intolerant, I'm guessing?
Very much so. Bingo, we're finally onto something.
Oh, no, it's the exact opposite. That's actually going to protect you from this one because there was a milkshake-related plan to poison Castro.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, if they gave me lactate first, but I don't think they had lactate in the 50s.
No, and if they're giving you lactate, I guess they could put botulinum into lactate. Okay, we'll focus group this. So there was an agent in Havana who had another capsule of botulinum, apparently very popular in the CIA at the time, and he was going to stick it in Castro's milkshake, but he had it hidden in the freezer, this capsule, and it froze to the side of the freezer, and when he tried to get it out, it broke.
Oh, boy.
But I got one now. Do you wear shoes?
Oh, let me think about that. Yes, most every day.
Here it is. This has got to be the one. I mean, it's a two-parter, though. Do you have a mighty and impressive beard that may be, in fact, the source of all of your political power?
No.
Another failure. Because this plan was to lace Castro's shoes with thallium salts, which would theoretically cause his beard to fall off, which would result in a beardless and therefore unimpressive Castro.
But if they had access to his shoes, couldn't they put a little mini explosive just like in the cigars and the shoes? It seems like the CIA are not thinking this through.
I mean, it's entirely possible. We have to remember that at this time in history, the CIA did have access to a hopeless amount of LSD.
Were they using it themselves?
They were using it themselves, and they were dosing each other like a considerable amount, so that might have been part of the problem. But that does leave us, I think, with one solution that just might work, because let me ask one more question. Do you ever go on the radio?
I have done that once or twice, I believe. Let me check my notes here. Yes, I do go on the radio.
Okay, you know what? I think we've found our jackpot, because the CIA had a plan to spray Castro with an aerosolized compound that was similar to LSD. So the idea was they'd spray him with a strong hallucinogen, and then he'd go on the radio, completely lose his mind, start spewing absolute nonsense, and this would cause the Cuban people to lose respect for him.
Couldn't he just say, hey guys, no radio broadcast tonight, I'm not feeling great?
No, I mean, that's the thing about El Presidentes. They tend to have that kind of megalomaniacal streak where they consider themselves to be, immortal and infallible. And so you can take advantage of that. And so maybe this is the one. Maybe we spray you with acid, you go on your radio show, start talking nonsense, and people would immediately say...
Wait. Start talking nonsense? I already do that every night. So, I mean, it's not going to work. Yeah.
Right. Okay. I think that's all that's left is maybe we're just going to have to open some diplomatic channels with you then.
Now, Castro came to be notoriously paranoid about being assassinated. Did he know about all these plans, or was he just, did this paranoia really just work to his advantage and it was there from the very beginning?
I mean, he knew about some of the plans because there was one case where the CIA hired a honeypot, which is specifically a spy that is trained to be extremely seductive and arousing. And the idea was that she would seduce Castro and then just shoot him in the face.
See, these are plans that might actually work.
Right. But it didn't work because she apparently fell in love with him and confessed, at which point, according to the story, he handed her a pistol and said, here, go ahead and do it. And she was like, I can't do it. And so if that story is accurate, I mean, we know that the CIA was interested in hiring honeypots. I don't know if it unfolded exactly like that. That seems like it might be a little bit of mythology. But I mean, considering all the other failures, maybe that is the way it went down.
Interesting. So he ended up living a long life, leading for a long time and handing the reins over to his brother?
Yeah. And of course, there was a bunch of jokes about this. The most famous one being that somebody offered Castro a pet Galapagos tortoise. And he asked, well, how long do they live? And the person said, well, this lives for 100 years. And Castro's like, oh, I don't want it then. I don't want to get attached to it and then just have it die before me.
So here we are with a manual from the CIA, ways to assassinate
Is it like Central American only, or just they tried on Central American leaders?
I mean, they were awfully busy in Central America, maybe because it was sort of on the doorstep. But I mean, obviously, this would work in any part of the world.
And the cynic in me, the not seeing the best in all government agencies in me, thinks if this is the document they're declassifying, what's in the one that they didn't?
Yeah, that's a really reasonable question. And of course, this is the technology that they had back then. The technology that's available now would be far more sinister and far less hilarious, I think.
Nathan Radke, cultural history professor at Humber Polytechnic. He's got a podcast. It's called The Uncover Up. Check it out. What a pleasure it was having you, Nathan. Please, hopefully today's conversation was merely hypothetical. I hope you don't try any of these things on me. Although not all of them seem to work well. So if you do need to try one on me, maybe pick one from this list.
Okay, and maybe check your shoes before you put them on.
I wear Crocs, just not in public, around the house.
I mean, then that's a character assassination in itself.
I don't leave the home with them. They're comfortable for in the home. Nathan, thanks again.
Thanks for having me on.
Coming up after the break, the mental health of children and why trying to make kids happy all the time might be part of the problem. Did your parents do this to you? Have you seen parents around you do this? Always trying to make a kid cheery might not have the intended effect. More info after the break.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. We work hard to strike the right amount of intelligence and ignorance. The last show with David Cooper.
Kids today, more anxious, overwhelmed, and emotionally drained than ever. And it's not just because of screens or schools. Today, we're talking to a social worker and expert in family and marital therapy, Gary Direnfeld. It's Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. And we'll chat about what's really hurting your kid's happiness and why trying to make your kid happy all the time might just be part of the problem. Gary, welcome in.
I always appreciate your introductions. Great to be with you again, David.
Serious introduction with a stupid mix-in. Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. We got to do Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. Otherwise, it would be Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday on a Monday.
Yeah, that wouldn't work.
No, just wouldn't. Pursuing happiness on behalf of someone else, I feel like it can backfire. Like over-focusing on the happiness of your child
Yeah.
may not actually be a good thing.
First of all, for parents, they think the holy grail in terms of outcome for their children is that their children are happy. And so they pursue this happiness with a vengeance. And how do they pursue this happiness? They buy their children things. When the child is upset, they soothe the child. The parents pave the way so that the child doesn't have to experience the bumps and grinds of life. And so what the parent doesn't realize is that in providing ever so much for the child in terms and soothing all the boo-boos that they're going to accumulate.
Coddling, I guess, would be the word.
That's a good word. The parent, rather than promoting happiness, promotes indulgence. And it also says to the child, there is only one feeling worth having, that of happiness. And if you have these other feelings, anger, upset, sadness, there's something definitely wrong.
We got to fix it right away.
Yes. And, I'm all for kids being happy, but my message to parents isn't indulge them. The truth is, give them responsibilities. Give them things to do. Give them chores. Have them complete their schoolwork according to their ability. I'm not, here saying, get the cane or the whip out and beat them into submission to do these things, but hold them accountable. appropriate manners. The reason, volunteer work, the reason to engage in these behaviors with your children is that it promotes responsibility.
I think that's one thread of our conversation. I also think in pursuing purely happiness for your kids, you're robbing them of their ability to learn how to experience sadness, anger, fear.
Absolutely.
These are like a part of life. I feel like I didn't get to experience these as a kid. I just,
Really?
or at least not have it validated by my parents.
Validated. Yes. I just want to finish on the note of responsibility. As your kids are responsible, they get stuff done, and there's nothing hanging over their heads. They're not getting into trouble. Then you have a happy kid. Like if my schoolwork is done to appropriate to my capacity, it's done. Then I'm happy. But if my parent is giving me things, yet my schoolwork isn't done and it continues to hang over my head and I'm getting in trouble for it, I'm not happy. You can't buy me out of that. So responsibility as a goal for parents to promote in their children, that lends itself to a happier kid.
What is it? Just like make your bed, set the dinner
Yes.
table? What are some examples?
All good examples. Participate in the making of the meal or the cleaning up in the meal. On the weekend or one evening after school, you can move the vacuum around. You can have a part-time job. You can make sure that your schoolwork is done. You can do volunteer work, doing for others, so that we're not self-indulging, but we're doing for others. All of this also helps create gratitude, where we show that we're thankful for that which we can do and that which we can receive. When we have, as you were saying, these big emotions, rather than, oh, don't be sad. Don't be sad. It suggests there's something wrong with this. I said, rather than that, you'll say, I can appreciate you're sad, sweetheart. This has been very upsetting. Just validate it. Allow the child to experience their emotions.
Why do you think it's so awful for parents when they observe their kids go through like normal periods of not being happy?
Good question. And I'm going to tell you why. These days, and I say, these days, over the last up to 15, even 20 years, more and more we have been hit by downturns in the economy and lower wages, requiring parents having to work more to put the roof over the head, clothes on back, foods in bellies. And as we work more, we're less available for our children. It's built in structurally by political and economic forces. So many of the parents that I chat with these days, they're working 2 jobs, David. Some of them even 3. So in our lack of availability, we experience what I call parental guilt. It's a very powerful motivator. So feeling guilty for our absence, when we are finally there with our kids, do we really want to spend all our time holding them accountable? We don't have the wherewithal. We are burnt out as parents in today's society. And so many parents not only want their kids to be happy, but they're choosing the path of least resistance to deal with the child's pushback when the child is being held accountable for anything.
Interesting.
So inadvertently, parents are more inclined to indulge as a means of managing behavior while also in the pursuit of that happiness. Am I making sense?
You are. Also, giving your kids responsibility, it sets them up to potentially like fail, which I think is so hard as a parent to watch a kid do, but also like your kids experiencing that and figuring out how to navigate that with support is also important. And I feel like a lot of parents, they don't want their kids to fail at anything, and they'll do anything to prevent that. But you got to let your kids like experience negative stuff in life. Otherwise, they won't be prepared for it.
So now we can get into a discussion about the participation trophy. right?
Yeah.
So my kids' team didn't win, yet we still get this trophy for participation. You know what? To some degree, fine. But on the flip side of that is, it's just the fun of the engagement in the activity. You don't have to win everything. And if you do lose and you feel bad about that, then feel bad about that. None of us ever died for not having won at a game.
I mean, maybe in the history of human, but the gladiators in Rome when they're fighting the lions and stuff. If you don't win, you're dead.
There you go. You may not get the biggest prize. So helping children to recognize this too is a part of life. Not every endeavor winds up with a trophy. And that's okay too. And we can use that as a learning experience. We could learn that is also a part of life, so that when we hit those bumps in the road, we're not devastated. We can cope. We don't feel as if everything has gone to the wayside.
It's Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday. We're discussing why trying to pursue happiness all the time for your kids may actually cause them harm, or at least not prepare them well to deal with the range of emotions that kids experience today. We'll be back with more of this in a moment.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. When your therapist won't take your calls anymore, there's always the last show with David Cooper.
We are here with Gary Direnfeld, social worker, expert in family marital therapy. He is my favorite person who comes on the show for a segment intended for Thursdays that airs on Wednesdays. It is Therapy Thursdays on a Wednesday.
Did you see how he narrowed that down? He started so broad. He's my favorite person, and now I'm going to qualify it. Who comes on for therapy? I'm going to qualify it further. On a Wednesday intended for a Thursday. Okay.
My mom calls me and she's like, how's my favorite youngest child doing? She always does this. Or my favorite son, who is the youngest of 3. I learned it from her. It's not a great trick.
But you know what? Parents do this to kids. I thought I was the best. Now I wind up with this huge disappointment.
You're comparing me to my brother? No shade on my brother. Actually, some shade on my brother.
But we actually do want to watch how we praise our children and what we praise them for, if we're going to use praise. And so, rather than you're the best, it's, you know what, you did that well. How do you feel about it? Oh, so now I can self-reflect and say, yeah, I feel good about that too. Or maybe I say, yeah, I did that, but I wish I had done better. And, then you open up the conversation versus this child's worth and value is connected to having achieved at that level.
All right, let's talk about kids who are anxious, overwhelmed, more emotionally drained these days. I think it's very easy to point at the pandemic and say, oh, they were trapped inside, it messed with them. That's why kids today are messed up. It'll all work out. But this trend has been happening for more than just the pandemic.
We can actually date the rise of children's anxiety, especially, and we date it to 2008, 2009. And when I do parent workshops, I ask them, do you know what happened in 2008 that created this rise? And, I get a bunch of wild guesses. Occasionally somebody comes up with the right guess, which is that was when the iPhone came out. And what I say to parents, the iPhone was a very expensive product. Only the parents could own it. And so the kids didn't have access. They were still at their computers. But in 2009, the Android phone came out and it made it more accessible to kids. And since 2009 to present, we've seen the age of acquisition, the age at which a child acquires their first smartphone, come lower in age. So rather than like in 2009, 2010, and 11, it was late teens acquiring phones for college. we're now seeing 6, 7, and 8-year-olds with phones of their own. When we track the sales of smartphones over the last, since 2009, so 15, 16 years, and we track the rise of childhood anxiety, we see that those two curves correlate. Now, it's not that a smartphone causes childhood anxiety, but we're seeing that rise of the childhood anxiety along with the sales of the smartphone. So what is going on? What is the nature of that relationship? And there's a number of things, David. One is, again, parents are less and less available. And because you've got this phone, now, even if you are, in a sense, available, we're not interacting with each other to the degree to which we did before the smartphone.
It's the perfect storm of parents not being available and this distraction that can be used for not good reasons.
When they can be available.
Yeah. I feel like I got lucky. I graduated high school in 2003, 4. I didn't get my first cell phone until I was 19. It was a flip phone. I didn't get my first smartphone until, 21, 22. I feel like I'm like the perfect age to have avoided this.
You just missed hitting that curve.
I can't relate to what it would be like to have access to social media, short form video sharing platforms like TikTok as a young teenager, tween.
And now think of that 6, 7-year-old who may have had a rough day at school, yet at the dinner table, if there is a dinner table, right? But let's assume that there is. Everyone's sitting in their seats, looking at their phones, not interacting. There isn't that opportunity for the parent to say, tell me about your day, or why do you have that scowl on your face, or what went well. So even when we are available, like I said, we're not. So the challenge for parents in our age is to be available. And I really mean available. And not just for that 10 minutes, 20 minutes at bedtime, but other times through the day, at the dinner table. When the kids come home, they hang up their coats, put their books away, let them put their smartphones away for a while. And you too, parent, simply be available. Already, that signals to a child, I am of worth, I am of value. Even if it's a weird experience, and it will be, the kid will push back on that, but eventually they get used to it and say, I'm of worth, I'm of value, I'm actually interacting with that parent. They can be using that time for a snack together. They can be preparing the evening's meal together. Now we're getting back to taking on responsibilities.
I find the opposite of this ugly comparison that happens when you're on TikTok, watching videos of kids your age having more fun than you, all the kind of negative stuff that the phone can.
Oh, then there's that. Yes.
The opposite is not doing it. The opposite, or the antidote to it, is activities that cause you to have gratitude. It's something we were talking about before the break. Involvement with the family, cooking a meal together, volunteering. These are all like alternatives that sort of have the opposite effect.
Yes. And look, if you can't give up that, I don't know if I can swear or not, that damn phone.
I'm glad you didn't. We get in trouble for every swear word we put out, but please go on.
Is there a dollar jar where you put $1 in, or do you just get beeped? What happens? Okay, I'll be careful. But if you can't give up the phone, then look at the same phone with your kid and check in on what they're viewing and chat about that. So let that be a focus that the two of you share, and now you're interacting again. There's something about truly being with your child that signals to them, I'm of worth, I'm of value. Otherwise, why would you be here with me? Okay. So, let's go full circle. My goals are aligned with parents. I want happy kids. I want kids who are competent, feel good about themselves, have agency, the capacity to get stuff done in the world. It will never be by indulging them, doing for them, blowing smoke up their, I won't say it,
Rear end.
It will be about holding them accountable, helping them to be responsible, limiting some of the time on their devices, and checking in with them, not trying to fix anything, but simply hearing, validating, walking along with them.
There's so much power in that daily check-in, that daily conversation, isn't there?
Honest to goodness, yes.
Or you can do it weekly, intended to be done on Thursdays, but we do it on Wednesdays.
I love doing it with you every time we meet. And, you know, what our listeners don't know is when we are at the commercial break, we check in with each other. And there's a sincerity to it. I enjoy that break where we can have that check-in, and I almost always see a smile on your face, and I have no doubt you see a smile on mine.
I love checking in with you. I feel like that should be the second show. What we talk about before we come on here, that's like, you know, that's... Anyway, Gary, it's such a pleasure having you here. Thanks for joining me.
Great to be with you again, David.
Gary Direnfeld is a social worker and a family and marital therapist. That's a wrap on the show. This was the last show. We'll be back tomorrow night. I am David Cooper. Kisses or hugs or neither.